It started with a whisper, low, wet, and breathless, slipping through the hallway vent like a dying sigh. I thought it was just my imagination. A draft maybe. But each night it got closer. More desperate. More human. My neighbors had just moved in, a young couple with pale skin, hollow eyes, and the kind of silence that makes your spine stiff. We never saw them in daylight. Their windows stayed shut, even during heat waves, and sometimes their curtains seemed to breathe. One night, I heard scraping, metal on concrete. Repeating. Rhythmic. As if something was being dragged across the basement floor. I pressed my ear to the wall that separated our homes. My breath caught. A wet dragging, then a voice. Not a whisper this time, but a gurgled moan. It said, "Don't let her out, she's watching." I stumbled back, heart racing. My dog growled, staring at the vent with his fur standing up like a brush fire. The smell came next. Sweet and foul, like a rotting bouquet dipped in iron. I tried to ignore it until I found something on my porch. A small jar. Glass, fogged from the inside. Tied with a human hair. Inside, a tooth. Still blood-stained. I dropped it. It shattered, releasing that same nauseating scent. The hair curled toward me like it was alive. I looked across the driveway. Their curtains twitched. I finally saw him, the husband. At 3:33 a.m., standing motionless in his backyard. Naked. Staring up at the moon with arms spread wide, like he was offering himself. His skin was ash-gray, veins like spider legs tracing his chest. Then he began to hum, a deep, vibrating sound that made my windows shudder. I couldn't look away. My breath fogged the glass. When he turned toward me, his eyes were gone. Just sewn-shut skin, stitched with something that looked like fishing wire. I didn't sleep after that. I started watching them. Logging everything. Movements. Times. Lights. One night, I saw her, the wife, kneeling in their kitchen, rocking back and forth. Her mouth was open but no sound came. Just shaking. Jerking. Her hands were bloodied, fingers bent backwards. Something crawled across the ceiling above her. Thin. Human-shaped. Upside down. She didn't look up. But the thing looked at me. It knew I was watching. I tried to call the police. My phone rang once, then went dead. No signal, no Wi-Fi. Just static in my ears. Then, a whisper. Through the receiver. "She's in your walls now." I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking so violently, I could hear my knuckles cracking. The air turned cold. My breath came out in puffs. From behind the closet door, I heard scratching. Not like rats. Fingernails. Slow. Deliberate. Waiting. The next morning, I noticed a new crack along my ceiling. It was shaped like a smile. It bled overnight. A black, sticky ooze that dripped onto my pillow while I slept. I checked the attic. Something was carved into the wood, a spiral made of fingernails, still embedded. The stench was unbearable. I turned to crawl back down, but heard breathing behind me. Warm. Wet. Inches from my neck. When I turned around, nothing. just attic dust floating in slow motion, like snow in hell. That night I dreamed of her. The neighbor's wife, but wrong. Her skin was paper thin, her eyes missing, her mouth a gaping black wound that whispered in reverse. She crawled toward me, snapping her joints backward like a spider. "She wants your skin," she hissed. When I woke, my bedsheets were shredded, claw marks trailing down my mattress. My fingernails were cracked and bleeding, but I didn't remember doing anything. I decided to confront them. Knocked on their door just before sunset. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. The door creaked open on its own. The smell was unbearable, like death dipped in vinegar. The hallway was lined with mirrors, all facing inward, reflecting nothing but static. I heard footsteps above me. Slow. Barefoot. Then laughter, high-pitched, like a child trying to mimic an adult. I called out. "Hello?" The door slammed behind me. Inside their home, the walls weren't painted, they were covered in skin. Stretched. Stitched. Scribbled with symbols that pulsed when I blinked. One of the photos on the mantel was me. Not them. Me. Sleeping. Taken from my window. I felt something behind me. I turned and saw a figure wrapped in curtains, floating inches above the ground. Her mouth stitched shut with copper wire. But her eyes screamed louder than any sound I've ever heard. I ran. Down the hallway that shouldn't have existed, it twisted in impossible ways. The floor was wet. Not water. Blood. Warm. Sticky. Each step I took echoed like it wasn't just my feet, like someone else was running just behind me. Breathing got louder. Closer. I turned a corner and slammed into a wall covered with family photos, my family. But their eyes were gouged out in every photo, and their mouths stitched with my own handwriting, "You let her in." Something grabbed my ankle and pulled me through the floor. It wasn't solid anymore, more like flesh, like skin over bone, pulling me down like it was hungry. I screamed but no sound came out. My vision blurred. Faces appeared in the walls, hundreds of them, moaning, crying, some smiling with teeth too many to count. I clawed upward, my hand sinking into the flesh-like floor, nails tearing off. I emerged in my own living room. But everything was upside down, and time had stopped. I sat frozen on my ceiling, gravity reversed. My TV showed static, but I heard whispers through it. My name. Again. And again. Then her voice, "You're already inside. You never left." I blinked and saw her reflection in the black screen. She was standing behind me, grinning with her head tilted to the side, too far to be human. I turned quickly but no one was there. The static stopped. And then every object in my house fell upward. Toward me. I ran into the bathroom to hide, locking the door behind me. I turned on the light. My reflection wasn't mine. It moved slower, smirked when I cried. Blood trickled down its eyes. Then it lifted its hand. My hand. And began slicing across its neck with a crooked smile. I screamed, but it only laughed. Then it stepped out of the mirror, barefoot, leaving bloody prints on the tile. I blacked out as it reached for my face. When I woke up, I was in her house. The neighbors. Bound by hair. Real hair. My mouth stuffed with teeth, not mine. All around me were jars filled with fingers, tongues, pieces of skin still twitching. She sat across from me, humming as she sewed a doll that looked like me. Then, she whispered to it, and I felt something pierce my chest. Real pain. I looked down, blood soaked my shirt, but no wound. She whispered again, and I screamed without sound. I don't know how I escaped. I remember fire. My hands burning as I grabbed the doll and threw it into the candles around her. She didn't scream. She just smiled wider, eyes turning pure black, as if my pain made her stronger. The room shook. Jars shattered. Blood and bone spilled across the floor, seeping toward me. As I ran, I could feel the air thicken like syrup. Each step felt like drowning in nightmares. I don't remember unlocking my door. But suddenly, I was home again, burned, broken, and alone. Or so I thought. The next morning, my hand still stung. But the doll was on my kitchen table. Perfectly intact. Its chest still red where I had stabbed it. Its eyes open. Watching me. I threw it away. Burned it in the backyard. But the ashes reappeared in my bedroom drawer that night. With a note, "Don't leave me." I broke down. I screamed and begged the air to let me go. But the shadows just grew darker in the corners, like they were listening, waiting, enjoying my fear. I tried to leave the neighborhood. Packed everything, booked a hotel. As I drove away, the sky turned dark. Midday sun vanished. My GPS spun in circles. Every turn led me back to the same intersection, past her house. Over. And over. The roads twisted like veins. My fuel ran out just as the sun returned. I was parked right outside her gate. And there she stood. Behind the fence. Waving slowly. Her head tilted. Her smile unbroken. I cried until I passed out. In my final attempt, I set fire to her house. Every room. Every wall. The skin peeled. The screams echoed, not hers, but mine, multiplied. Dozens of my voices. Crying. Begging. I watched her silhouette in the flames, dancing like smoke, like she was feeding off the heat. As I turned to run, I fell, straight into her basement. I broke both legs. Couldn't move. She stood above me, upside down on the ceiling, and whispered, "Now we are one." Now, I'm still here. In my home. But I'm not alone. I hear her breathing through the vents. Her whispers fill my dreams. Sometimes I see her watching from the mirror just behind my shoulder. I never turn around. I don't sleep anymore. I just write. I tell my story, hoping someone believes me. But if you're reading this, don't look next door. Don't wave. Don't even acknowledge them. Because once you do, she'll never leave you alone again. It started on a rain-soaked Tuesday. I had just moved into a quiet neighborhood, a place that seemed frozen in time. The trees were tall and ancient, their branches twisting like broken fingers. I remember unloading boxes alone, pausing to glance at the house across the street. It looked wrong. The paint was peeling, the windows too dark. But what chilled me more was the absence of a number on the mailbox. Every other house had one. That one didn't. On my third night, I noticed the lights. Soft, flickering yellow glows behind the curtains of the house with no number. I stared for a long time. No movement. Just that flicker, like candlelight. I shrugged it off until I saw a face. Just for a second. Pale. Watching me. I turned off my own light and backed away from the window slowly, heart thudding like war drums. The next morning, my dog refused to go near the fence facing that house. He growled and whimpered, tail between his legs. That wasn't like Maximum. He was a rescue, brave and gentle. But something about that direction paralyzed him. I tried pulling him with the leash, but he planted his feet, eyes wide, teeth bared. It was then I noticed something under the fence, a child's shoe. Old. Muddy. Burnt at the edges. I brought the shoe inside, unsure why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe guilt. But that night, things changed. The house across the street had its curtains wide open. And behind the glass stood 6 figures, children. Pale. Still. All facing my window. Their mouths open in silent screams. I dropped the shoe. The lights in my home flickered. Then the power died. Max whimpered and buried himself under the couch. I could barely breathe. That night, I dreamed of fire. Of screaming children running through black hallways. Of someone, something, standing behind me whispering, "You took her shoe, now give her back." I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. And the shoe was gone from my table. Replaced with a rotted child's drawing. A house. On fire. With a red X scratched over my bedroom window. I visited the local library that day. Asked about the house across from mine. The librarian went pale. Her hands trembled slightly. She whispered, "There is no house across from you. It burned down in 1986. Children inside. No one survived." I insisted. She pulled up satellite maps. I nearly vomited. There was no house marked across from me. Just a patch of blackened earth labeled undeveloped land, do not enter. I came home to find muddy footprints on my porch. Small. Child-sized. Leading from my fence to my bedroom window. I stared in silence. The air was heavy. Too still. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message, "She's cold. She wants her shoe." Attached, an image. Of me. Sleeping. That very night. Max began howling, his body pressed against the wall, tail tucked, staring into the hallway like something stood there. That evening, I boarded up the windows. Every single one. Nailed them shut. I locked the doors, pulled the curtains, even turned every light on. But it didn't matter. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every bulb in the house burst. One by one. Pop, pop, pop. Darkness fell like a curtain of dread. I could hear them now, children giggling. Soft at first. Then loud. Then right outside my bedroom door. I grabbed Max and locked myself in the bathroom. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The house creaked with movement, like dozens of feet pacing slowly. Soft whispers slithered through the walls. "She's waiting in the walls, she's cold." Then, scratching. From inside the bathroom mirror. Not the frame. The mirror. As if fingernails were clawing their way from behind the glass. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't move. Every hour passed like a lifetime. And then, at dawn, it stopped. No sound. No presence. Just a silence so sharp it cut. I opened the door slowly and stepped into the hallway. My heart dropped. Someone had carved words into the wood floor. You saw US. Now we stay. And beneath it, a drawing, a child's figure holding hands with a taller one. The taller one looked just like me. I tried to leave. I packed a bag, grabbed Max, ran out to the car. But when I turned the key, it didn't start. The engine coughed, died. I tried again. And again. On the third attempt, the radio turned on by itself. A little girl's voice whispered through the static, "You forgot her." Max barked violently, spinning in circles. The windows fogged over with tiny handprints from the inside. I stumbled back inside. I didn't know what else to do. Sleep deprived, shaking, broken. I checked the guest room. I don't know why. Maybe because the door was open just a crack. It hadn't been earlier. I pushed it open slowly. The child's shoe was there. Back on the bed. Clean. Brand new. And next to it, a stuffed rabbit. Old. Torn. Missing one eye. I had never seen it before in my life. Desperate, I called the church down the street. I asked for someone, anyone, to come. The priest who answered didn't hesitate. He said he knew the house. That he had once performed last rites after the fire. But he warned me that house was never supposed to return. If it's back, something's been invited. I asked what I could do. He said, return what you took. And pray you're not too late. That night, I walked to the house. The one that shouldn't exist. Max refused to come. He howled and backed into the corner of the kitchen. I carried the shoe and the rabbit, my hands trembling, legs weak. The house across the street glowed. Not with light, but with something deeper. As I stepped closer, the temperature dropped. Frost crawled across the grass. The door opened on its own. Inside, everything was ash. The walls black. The air thick with the scent of burning wood and something else. Decay. I stepped over collapsed beams, shoes crunching on broken glass and bone. And then I saw them, children. Dozens. Frozen in place. Faces charred. Eyes empty. And in the center, a girl. Unburned. Pale. Clutching a rabbit. She looked at me and said, she was mine. You brought her back. The air turned thick, almost syrupy, pressing against my chest. The girl stared at me with wide, sorrowful eyes, too wide, like they'd seen centuries of pain. I slowly placed the rabbit on the floor, kneeling as if in front of a grave. I didn't mean to take her, I whispered. She tilted her head, eyes never blinking. She chose you, she said. But now she belongs to them. Suddenly, the burnt children turned toward me. Every single one. Their mouths opened in silent screams. I stumbled backward, tripping over scorched beams as whispers filled the air again. This time, louder. Angry. She was ours. You let her see. Now she stays. I turned and ran. But the house wasn't letting go. Every door I opened led to another burnt hallway. The layout kept shifting, impossible geometry. Time dissolved. I ran for what felt like hours, my throat raw from screaming. I saw myself in a cracked mirror. But I wasn't alone in the reflection. She was standing behind me. Suddenly, everything went quiet. No whispers. No movement. just the sound of my own heartbeat. I stood in a cold room with no windows and no doors. Only a small bed and a broken music box on it. I picked up the music box. It was the same tune I heard in my dreams as a child. I wound it. It played slowly, painfully. And then I remembered, I had lived here. Long ago. I was the boy next door. I saw the fire. I did nothing. And she died calling for help. Tears poured down my face. I dropped to my knees, the guilt unbearable. "I'm sorry," I whispered into the silence. The room trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Her voice, softer now, filled the space. So was I. I opened my eyes, and she was there, her pale face inches from mine. She reached out, not with anger, but with sorrow. She touched my forehead. It felt like ice and fire at the same time. The world turned black. I woke up on my living room floor. It was morning. The curtains were open, Max was licking my face. Everything looked normal. But on the table, the rabbit. Clean, stitched, new. Next to it, a note in child's handwriting, "Thank you for bringing me home." I moved out that day. Never looked back. But every year, on the same night, I hear the music box playing faintly across the street. The house is gone again. But the girl is not. She never will be.